Hey guys, Ellie here. Today, I have some really exciting news for those of you that watch my videos. I have gotten countless comments over the past several days asking, "Hey Ellie, where is that orange kitten? Ellie, where's the cat that your dad and you rescued a few days ago at Longhorn Lester's? Y'all still have it? What's going on with it?" A lot of people asking for updates. And as you can see, the orange cat is right here. It's eating some wet food right now, has some water, and it's living its best life outdoors, just chilling in the barn on a extremely hot day. It's funny, last week I made a video about how it's so much cooler at Longhorn Lester's than it is at the sanctuary, but I'm eating my words because it feels about 100 degrees over here. So like the hotter it gets, the more the heat will make its way even to areas like Longhorn Lester's that put up a fight against the heat. You know what I mean? But anyways, Orange Kitty is doing great. I have a whole spiel to get into with you guys about the. That sounds like I'm attacking you. Definitely not. That's not what I meant. I have a whole script, a whole list of things to unravel with you guys, the Facebook and YouTube family. That's more so what I meant to say. Let me tell you guys the whole sequence of events over the past week or so. So Thursday afternoon is the day that my dad and I found this orange kitten. For those of you that didn't see the video, which I don't think as many of you, considering the video got 120 something thousand views so far, which is double the amount of followers that I have. I don't know how that's possible. But anyways, my dad and I found that orange kitten by the ostrich pen on Thursday afternoon. It seemed abandoned. My dad may have thought that maybe someone dumped it out because sadly people do things like that. And anyways, we took it and we put it inside of a crate, gave it some food and some water, and let it stay there all of Thursday night. Friday morning, my dad woke up. My dad gave it some food and some water again, and then he brought it to this barn over here. Originally, we had it in the other barn where the dogs live, where the other cats live, but they're very territorial and protective of that barn. So we did not want to let Orange Kitty roam free over there because the odds are the dogs may have bullied it and or hurt it. The other cats may have bullied and or hurt it, and it probably wouldn't have felt very welcome here in that case. So my dad brought it to this barn over here where there are no animals whatsoever. He gave it some water and some food by the hay over there, put the crate down in that exact spot, opened it up and said, "Be free, little one." I don't think he actually said those exact words. He might have, I don't know. But anyways, he said, "Be free, little orange kitty." And the cat ran out. It ran in that direction out of the barn and it just went in either direction. And that was it. I wasn't here when that happened and my dad told me about it. I hadn't put the video on social media yet. A little later that afternoon is when I published the video to YouTube and Facebook. And a lot of people were commenting things like, "Ellie and Lester, you should not let that kitten out. It's way too young. It will not survive on its own. It'll die in the wild. Ellie, y'all need to take it to a vet. Y'all need to get it vaccinated. You need to keep it indoors." All these things that we need to do. And I felt really guilty after reading all those comments, I'm not gonna lie, because obviously it was too late by that point. We had already released the cat and all those events that happened the previous day before I uploaded it. So there was nothing that we could do. My dad came out here every single afternoon and left food and water, of course, just in case it wanted to come back and eat. But there was no sign of the kitten at all. And so we had just assumed that maybe it took off and it was out doing its own thing. I felt really guilty about it at first. But after my dad, Jamie, and I kind of talked about it, they were able to kind of reassure me that, "Ellie, it's natural for animals to be out in the wild." Like on our trail cams, because my dad and Jamie have trail cams, they see countless wild cats like that one. They see foxes, raccoons, squirrels, you name it, every animal you can possibly think of pretty much. You see all kinds of animals on the trail cams out in the wild. So it's natural for them to live out there. It's their instincts, is what God made them for, literally. They weren't made to be captive. I'm not going to say they weren't made for it, but you don't have to captivate. It's not realistic to captivate or literally trap every single animal you find outdoors inside of a house. In the same way that, yeah, your heart bleeds for Every homeless person that you see on the streets, I feel burdened for them. My heart hurts for them. But it's impossible, no matter how hard I try, to feed every single homeless person on planet Earth. It's just not feasible. There's not enough money, not enough time, not enough knowledge of where people are at. It's not, you get what I mean? It's not realistic. And so, in the same way, every time you find an animal outdoors, it's not realistic to trap every single one inside and do all of those things because you don't even know for sure if it's in need. Maybe you can assume that it's in need because it's kind of little, like this one was, but for all we know, it could have a family. Cats can travel up to 1 mile away from where they were born at in their lifetime. Let me go outside of the barn and show you something real quick. Picture 1 mile. 1 mile in that direction, 1 mile in that direction, 1 mile in that direction. Just picture 1 mile in every direction as far as the eye can see. A mile is a really long way. Think about it. Think about going 60 miles an hour in a car. You would have to go 60 miles an hour in a car for 60 seconds to have traveled 1 mile. That's just put into perspective how long of a way a mile is. A mile in that direction. And look at that right there. That's another thing that's very common in the country that may not be so common in the city, is the amount of abandoned structures, abandoned buildings there are in the country. I'm pretty sure that's an abandoned building right there. And for those of y'all that don't know, abandoned buildings are notorious for having mice and having other animals that cats love to feast on. Good little snacks for them to eat. So it's just a whole different dynamic in the country than it is in the city. I forgot where I was even going with this. I think I was talking about how I felt guilty at first, but Jamie especially was reassuring me, talking about how, like, Ellie, it's natural for animals to be in the wild. That's what they were made for. Like, if it's like an abandoned kitten like Loveland was, then okay, that's different, because obviously you can see that it's lost and that it's gonna die if it doesn't get some serious help. But if it's kind of like this cat right here that is obviously old enough to be active and old enough to move around. I mean, it came here from somewhere after all, right? Somebody didn't just dump it right there in front of the ostrich pen. If it was dumped, or if it was just born somewhere in the woods, it on its own walked all the way over here to Longhorn Lester. So it's obviously able-bodied. So if you don't know that an animal is in need, then how can you expect to literally do all the things that you would for an animal that you know is absolutely 100% in trouble? It's crying for help. It's gonna die if you don't do. Am I even conveying what I'm trying to say very good? Sorry, guys, I'm getting kind of fired up. I'm not sure if I'm conveying what I'm trying to say very well. Bottom line is the way that I've started looking at things is that when God will make it blatantly obvious when it's his will for you to intervene, when it's his will for you to help somebody. It won't be a matter of like, well, maybe possibly it could be in need. I don't know. Like the same way that Loveland was obviously abandoned by her mom. Her 3 litter mates died. She was basically a corpse with an eye infection when we found her. Those kind of situations are when it's blatantly obvious that an animal needs help. When somebody is like asking you for help, whenever somebody really needs help, those are the kind of situations where you can tell that somebody's in need. Sometimes I would see people and they'd be working really hard outside, and I would kind of feel burdened for them. I would feel bad, thinking like, man, maybe that person needs help. Maybe they wouldn't choose to be working outdoors if they had a little more money or something like that. But for all I know, that person could be extremely content and extremely happy with their life. It's easy for me to feel burdened for somebody that I may not know, or that I may not have the same mind of. But a lot of people that are working outdoors in the hot sun, they enjoy it. It's honest sweat. They are happy with their families. They could not be happier doing anything else other than what they're doing. And so to me, I feel bad for them, but for them, they are extremely happy. Do y'all get what I mean? In the same way, this kitten over here, it hates people. It really does. It makes Avalanche seem like a social butterfly. That cat right there, when we saw it, it could seem like, oh no, poor baby, it's so lost. Oh my goodness, this cat needs help. What do we need? Oh my goodness, we could feel so burdened for it. But for all we know, the cat could have just been exploring. It could have just had a full mice in its belly that it ate. And it could be living its best life out here. And based on the fact that it's still here after 6 days, I think that my dad, Jamie, and I made the right choice in releasing it. Because I think that it's living its best life being a feral outside cat that's able to spoil itself on wet food every so often. That's another thing too, the whole underfed part. That's something that I've always kind of felt passionate about, even before finding this kitten. What was I going to say? Oh, yes. Picture a human. Picture somebody that has a very lean diet. They eat fish, maybe even someone who's like a vegetarian or something. People who don't eat a lot of heavy foods. Vegetarian is probably not the best example, but picture somebody who has no ethical convictions about what they eat, but they just choose to eat lean food like fish and other things of that nature. Obviously, they're well nourished. They have enough food to sustain themselves. Otherwise, there'd be literally corpses all over the roads of people that only eat fish and lean food. So obviously they're eating enough to take care of themselves just fine. But if you take that same person, you put a big, juicy burger in front of them, common sense tells you they're literally going to gorge it down like they've never eaten before. And you might think, oh my goodness, they were starved. No, they weren't starved. They were doing just fine. They just have the heaviest meal in front of them that they've ever seen before, so they're gorging it down. And so in the same way, this cat might seem underfed. It might seem starved because of the way it gorges down that wet food. It might seem that way because it seems skinnier than the sanctuary cats that eat wet food every single day, that eat artificial food every single day at that. But it could actually be the healthiest cat out here if it's literally relying on God's nature for its nutrition. It's eating the things that it's naturally meant to eat. It could be doing better off than we realize. And whenever we see it gorging that wet food, it may not be because it's starved. It might be because it's literally splurging because it's never had food that heavy in its entire life. It's being spoiled to an extent. Nothing wrong with being spoiled. I think y'all get what I'm trying to say. I'm not sure if I'm conveying this whole message very well. I hope that I am. But bottom line is, there was a reason that we released the cat. I felt extremely guilty about it, but now that I see that it's doing well, and after I kind of talked it out with my dad and Jamie, I feel very good about it. I feel very happy, and I feel very confident that the cat is living its best life. And I feel confident that we didn't make a stupid decision or anything like that. If it was like a itty-bitty kitten that obviously had no way to take care of itself, then yeah, it probably would have been a horrible idea to release it. We would never do that. But even though it's kind of young, an able-bodied cat that got here somehow, I think we made the right choice, letting it be feral like it wants to be. Jamie put it best in a few very simple words. You can't captivate every outdoor animal you find. And I think that's so true. You gotta let nature do its thing. And this cat right here now knows that it has a place for shade. It has a place for peace and quiet because it is not social whatsoever. If you want to see how antisocial it is and how much it hates people, y'all go back to the last video and see how it scratched me and how much it was like growling whenever I was holding it. The last video I made of this cat. But it has food and water that my dad puts out here every single day, has shade, has peace and quiet, has vast amounts of woods it can roam in, has evidently abandoned buildings where it can find mice, everything it possibly needs. Right, Dixie? Yeah, that's right, sweetheart. Anyways, guys, I really hope y'all enjoyed that video. I do feel a lot more peace and I feel a lot better about it because I was feeling some guilt for it over the past few days. Y'all be sure to let me know in the comments what kind of stuff you'd like to see. If y'all have any questions, concerns, or comments about everything we talked about in this video, then be sure to leave it down below. I would love to give some replies. And I hope y'all have an incredibly blessed day. And as I always say, your boy Ellie out.